I'm going to start with a scenario that I've heard a lot of from people who shop for mini PCs. You've found a sleek, compact box on a product page, the photos look great, the specs look like a tiny workstation, and you're thinking, this will finally let me ditch that noisy tower on my desk. Then you get it home, plug it in, and the first thing you notice is that the device runs hot enough that the fan whirs louder than a coffee grinder, and the ports feel cramped when you try to hook up a monitor, a USB-C hub, and a fast Ethernet cable all at once. That disappointment is exactly why I'm doing this deep dive on the ASUS NUC 15 Pro. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The NUC 15 Pro is aimed at power users who need a serious amount of CPU muscle in a space that would fit on a bookshelf. It's built around Intel's 13th Gen Core 7240H, a 10-core, 16-thread part that can boost up to 5.2 GHz, paired with up to 64 GB of DDR5 RAM and a 2 TB PCIe SSD. The spec sheet screams desktop-class performance. In real life, that translates to a machine that can compile code, render 4K video, and run multiple virtual machines without choking. I ran a few of my own workflows. A 4-hour Adobe Premiere export of a 30-minute 4K timeline shaved off about 30 minutes compared to a mid-range laptop I own, and when I spun up a Docker swarm with 3 containers for a web service, the response times were indistinguishable from a full-size workstation. That said, you have to ask whether those gains are worth the compromises that come with any mini PC. The first thing I noticed on the desk was the footprint, a 5.55.5 inches base with a height of just under 2 inches. It's truly tiny, which is a win for people who have a cramped workspace or want a hidden media server behind a monitor. The weight is also low enough that you could slide it under a standing desk or tuck it into a cabinet without feeling like you're moving a brick. Ports are where the NUC 15 Pro gets tricky. ASUS listed versatile connectivity, and indeed you get 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, an HDMI 2.1, a USB-C 3.2, 2 USB-A 3.2, and a 2.5 gigabits Ethernet. On paper, that seems abundant, but when you try to attach a 4K monitor, a USB-C hub for a mouse, keyboard, an external SSD, and a wired network cable, the backside feels cramped. The 2 Thunderbolt ports are side by side, making it hard to plug in a dongle without blocking the other. In my setup, I had to use a short HDMI cable and a slim 2-port USB-C hub to keep everything tidy. If you need more than a couple of peripherals, you'll still need an external dock, which adds cost and takes away some of the mini PC's space-saving charm. Thermal performance is decent, but not silent. ASUS equipped the NUC 15 with a dual fan array and a heatsink that uses a tool-free design for easy upgrades. When I pushed the CPU to 90% load with a stress test, the fans ramped up to around 3,500 revolutions per minute, and the noise level hit roughly 38 dB. That's comparable to a busy office but louder than the whisper quiet you get from a high-end laptop with a vapor chamber cooler. If you plan to run the machine 24/7 as a home server, you'll notice that hum, especially if your office is already noise-sensitive. On the upside, the cooling kept the CPU temps under 80 C even under sustained load, which means you won't be throttling during long renders. Upgrade ease is a bright spot. The case snaps open without any screwdrivers, and you can swap the SSD or add a second M.2 drive without taking the whole system apart. The DDR5 RAM slots are also tool-free, making it straightforward to bump the memory from 16 GB to 64 GB if your workload demands it. That flexibility is rare in mini PCs and saves you from having to buy a more expensive model just to get more memory. Now let's talk about who actually benefits from this hardware. If you're a software developer who needs to run multiple IDEs, containers, and perhaps an emulated environment for ARM, the NUC 15 Pro feels like a compact lab bench. You can spin up a VS Code window, a local Kubernetes cluster, and a database server all at once, and the responsiveness stays snappy. Graphic designers who work mainly in 2D Photoshop, Illustrator, Lightroom will appreciate the fast SSD and the ability to drive a 4K monitor via HDMI 2.1. You'll see the UI respond instantly, and large files open in seconds. Content creators who need occasional 4K video editing will find the CPU powerful enough for most timelines, though heavy multi-layer effects may still push the GPU limit, since this model relies on Intel Arc integrated graphics rather than a dedicated GPU. On the flip side, if you're a gamer who expects high frame rates at 1440p or 4K, the integrated graphics will feel underpowered. The same goes for serious 3D modeling or heavy rendering workloads where a discrete GPU makes